Shana Tova. I have to begin by telling the truth. Not that I don't otherwise, but I've been dreading this moment for 51 and a half weeks. Getting up here and talking about this past year. The last day of the High Holy Day season last year, Simchat Torah. We celebrate, we sing, we dance with the Torahs. For me, everything changed. October 7th. Do I need to say anything more than that? All year, this has really been about war, anti-Semitism, campus encampments, vitriol, a horrible political climate. And by the way, we have an election in 1 month. I don't know if you knew that. Everything is just stressful right now. It's stressful on the heart and the soul. It's just heavy. Perhaps that's why we needed to come together for these holy days. This week, I want to talk about Israel. But I don't want to talk about Israel's military, battles, bombs, politicians. Nor do I want to talk about Hamas's massacre against Israelis and foreign nationals, or the hostages, or the nearly 200,000 people that are refugees in the state of Israel. I'm sure that many in this room have what to say about all those topics. And it's not that I won't touch upon them, but I'm not going to speak directly to that. It's not because I don't think it's significant, but that's all I've been reading about, all I've been watching on the news. And frankly, in synagogue this year, standing up here, after the year we've had, do we really need more news being delivered from here? So, I guess I'm going to begin with my core position on Israel. I believe that the Jewish people have a self-evident right to be a nation, as all other nations, in its own sovereign state. Full stop. If that makes me a Zionist, I'm guilty and unapologetic about it. I am unwavering in my support for any action that the country takes. And my reason for all of it is very simple. I don't live there. I don't pay taxes in Israel. Every Israeli citizen, with some exceptions of course, participates in the Israeli Defense Force, in Tzahal. Every Israeli has been personally involved in the security of that nation. I have not. Every single person in that country has had to run to a bomb shelter because of rocket attacks regularly. Indeed, merely 2 days ago, 10 million Israelis. When I was there in December, I got a little bit of a hint of this. We were picking kohlrabi, of all things, in the middle of a field just northwest of Tel Aviv, and the sirens went off. So we were instructed, you lay on the ground, you put your hands over your head like this, and with your face looking at the dirt, you could hear the Iron Dome working above you. That was one moment. Although I will say in 1991, my first year of rabbinical school, the Scud missiles were dropping from Iraq. We put on our gas masks. We went into sealed rooms with our hearts beating out of their chest like crazy. Maybe a half a dozen times. But you know what? I could go home. They have been feeling it their whole lives at home. I fully support the IDF, who didn't want a war but have to fight one right now. I fully support the Israeli troops, the young men and women, and the older citizens called up as reservists who are literally putting their lives on the line so that the Jewish people survive. I support those that are calling for a ceasefire, but I also fully support those who want the war to continue. I support the government's decisions, and I support those who are raging against the government. I support all the families of the hostages 100%, and I support all the families who have lost people. I support them all because it is their self-determined right to make decisions for their own lives and their own country. That is what I can do. Support the people with my presence, with my voice, with my resources, and love them unconditionally. I do that because I believe in Judaism. I believe in the continuation of our people and our sacred purpose to make this world a better place through hope and action. Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people, our people. They are a part of Am Yisrael as we are a part of Am Yisrael. I don't change whether I love Israel because I agree or disagree with the government. In the same way that I love this country, the United States, but at this time and times throughout my life, I didn't agree necessarily with what was happening in the government, but I still love this country. I just don't feel comfortable criticizing a country 7,500 miles away from the cozy confines of Los Angeles, when Israelis are fighting for their lives and forced to retreat to bomb shelters with their children. I don't know what it's like to live under an existential threat as a nation. How can I possibly tell Israelis what they should do? I have another reason why my support is so unwavering, especially in public. Jews represent 0.2% of this world. We just passed the 15,700,000 mark out of 8 billion people in the world. And a large percentage of the remaining 99.8% of the people in this world might not be so friendly towards Israel. As a Jew, if I add my voice to their anger, the next thing we hear is, see, even the Jews agree with us. Having disagreements amongst us, amongst our friends, amongst family is one thing. But I don't think it helps the Jewish people or Israel at all to publicly pour gasoline on the fire of hatred. As Greg Roman, the director of the Middle East Forum, warned us about the public discourse on Israel right now, they have blurred the line between critique of Israeli government policies and delegitimization of the Jewish people's right to self-determination. One of the greatest sadnesses in my heart is that there is a whole generation that doesn't know Israel except for the military, battles, bombs, politicians. They don't know the food, they don't know the music, they don't know the theater, they don't know the art, they don't know the dance. Did I say food? I'd venture to say that there are many, many people who don't know anything about Israel other than their military. So I want to present you with an essence of a country. This essence is found in the Declaration of Independence, the Israeli Declaration of Independence. 1948, the country is barely a country, it's poor. It had no real allies yet. There wasn't much industry. Population was small. They had very few resources, and most of the land was the desert. They had just fought against the group of Arabs who said no to the UN's partition plan in 1947 for a parallel state next to the Jewish one. And they were attacked, the Israelis. The Arabs refer to these battles I'm talking about as the Nakba. Israelis and Jewish people refer to this as the War of Independence. So this is what they wrote. A year after this battle, battled for a year, they write this in the Declaration, quote, "In the midst of wanton aggression, we call upon the Arab inhabitants of the State of Israel to return to the ways of peace and play their part in the development of the state with full and equal citizenship and due representation in all its bodies and institutions, provisional or permanent." And then goes on. "We offer peace and amity to all neighboring states and their people, and invite them to cooperate with the independent Jewish nation for the common good of all. The State of Israel is ready to contribute its full share to the peaceful progress and reconstitution of the Middle East." Coming off an incredibly fierce, or many, many fierce battles with the Arab inhabitants of the state, they ask in the Declaration of Independence itself for who was their enemy to play a part in the development of the state as full and equal citizens. Why that didn't wholly happen is up to historians to explain to us. But even so, with all of that, out of a population of 10 million Israelis, 20% today are Arab. In the Young State's original document that I just read, the infant state, it invites any country who's willing to cooperate in actions for the common good of all, offering to contribute to peaceful progress. That ethos, that essence is found everywhere in Israel. And I'm going to give you 3 examples, and I'm sorry to say they are government examples. I'm not sorry to say it. In 1958, Golda Meir, who was the foreign minister at the time, started something called Mashav. It is an agency that spearheads cooperation and transformation in foreign countries. In Europe, in South America, in Africa, mostly Africa, in the Far East, 140 countries all around the world have worked in cooperation with Mashav to make their countries better. The next one is Operation Good Neighbor. Operation Good Neighbor is a Jewish, Christian, and Muslim partnership that started during the Syrian Civil War in 2013. A year earlier, in 2012, some Syrians started showing up at the Israeli border. And they were hurting, and they were hungry. And there happened to be an Israeli soldier on the other side of the border. They asked him for help. At that moment, put a whole bunch of things in a bag, threw the bag literally over the fence that had medical supplies and food and clothing. From there, it's a longer story, but they formed a partnership that has continued to today. They provide Syrians who are needy medicine and supplies and food and clothing. Lastly, the IDF itself has a 200-person first responding team that has shown up at no less than 15 natural disasters in this world over the last 25 years. Tsunamis, hurricanes, earthquakes. They came to Katrina in 2005. The ethos of reaching out to our neighbor in peace and prosperity is an ethos that's built into the DNA of Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. And therefore, that DNA is also built into the state of Israel. These three examples, by the way, are not NGOs. They're not private individuals. They are the state of Israel doing it. Finally, the declaration has a message for all of us. Quote, "Our call goes out to the Jewish people all over the world to rally to our side in the task of immigration and development, and to stand by us in the great struggle for the fulfillment of the dream of generations, the redemption of Israel. Am Yisrael Chai." We were asked 76 years ago to stand by Israel in that great struggle for the fulfillment of the redemption of our people. That struggle continues, and that's why I stand by Israel. This past December, about 70 days after the massacre in the South, I was on a mission with 20 other Reform rabbis, a solidarity mission. We toured the country, went to Kfar Aza, one of the kibbutzim that had been attacked. We went to the police station in Sderot, where all that was left of it was a slab of concrete sticking up out of the ground and a Hanukkah menorah perched atop, and then an empty lot, because the Israelis had to bomb the police station because terrorists killed everyone inside and took over the building. We heard from political strategists, journalists, retired military. They didn't inspire me. You know who inspired me? The people. The regular people we met. And there's three I want to tell you about quickly. The first is a woman named Tchelet, which is a very strange name. It's the blue that's found on the talit, although this isn't the blue. The blue actually doesn't exist anymore. And Tchelet, I didn't get her last name. We met some refugees from the kibbutz near Oz in Jerusalem. They were staying at one of the hotels in Jerusalem. You may not know this, but 25,000 people from the south were in Jerusalem alone in 63 hotels. But she cautioned us. She said, "Don't let what this looks like fool you. This is a refugee camp with a lobby." Which I thought was an amazing statement, but it wasn't the one that I remember to this day. The one I remember to this day is, we have a saying here: don't bounce back, bounce forward. That's how the people of Israel endure. The second person, her name is Meirav. I didn't get her last name either. I had rented a car after our tour, and I went around to visit various friends and family in different cities around the country. And before I returned the car, I decided I would go to the Azrieli Mall in Ramla. It's this very beautiful, huge indoor, almost brand new mall like we used to have in the United States. And as I'm driving into the city of Ramla, I look up and there is this humongous water tower with what looked like, 100 flags on it. In fact, there were 60 flags there because I didn't know this until afterwards. But Ramla is a city made up of immigrants from over 60 countries in the world. And they consider themselves like a city of the world and very proud of their cultural diversity. I was looking for hummus. I get to the mall, all kinds of families, everyone's pushing baby carriages all around, lots of noise. I finally find my little hummus shop, and there's these two women there, one about 20 or so, that was Meirav, and someone else a little bit older. So I met them at the cash register and walked over to the table a little, and we just were talking. I was practicing my Hebrew, so it was a very slow conversation. And I noticed that the younger woman had a whole bunch of tattoos, and I made some comment like, oh, yeah, young people and tattoos and the whole thing. And she goes, I just got a new one. And she goes like this and lifts her shirt sleeve up, and just above where her elbow crosses, it says 7/10/2023. In Israel, they write the day first. I said, oh my God, that must have had a lot of impact on you. And she said, I was at the Nova Festival. From that reaction, I think you know what that festival is, right? Dancing all night. I said, how did you get away? And she said, barachti. I looked up barachti because I have a sense of what barachti means. You know what they put as the translation for barachti? I ran away. That's not really. Ratzti is I ran. Ratzti achutza, maybe. I ran out. Barachti is more like I fled. More like I escaped. I survived. To me, she was any woman I know. She could have been my wife, could have been my daughter, she could have been my sister if I had one. She looked like and dressed like us if we were 20. You know what I mean. She was a young woman who went to a dance festival and she had to flee for her life. Last week, there was a group of us that went to that Nova Festival exhibit in Culver City. I walked through this room. They had a narrow room with 350 pictures of every person that had been murdered at that festival. And I just sat there thinking of her with tears coming down my face because I realized that she had danced with these people all night. And there she was, with me, talking to a tourist and back at work. The last person I want to share with you is Adir Schwartz. This is an incredible person. He's a Jerusalem community leader, one of the founders of the center called Hamal HaYerushalmi, which is a Jerusalem Civil Coordinator Center. Literally on October 7th, before they really even knew what happened, he had already gathered together 100 volunteers. And this is the craziest part. Imagine this ever happening. He called up his political opponent in Jerusalem, they're literally suing each other and in court. And that's the first person he called to put this coalition together. On day one, they had 100 volunteers. By December, 2 months later, they had well over 1,000 volunteers and 20 departments. So the way it would work is if someone came and said, we need bathroom products, they would begin a department, and they would tackle that area of need, and they would ask for donations. So they open up a store called Otef, which is ironic, because Otef Gaza is the envelope of Gaza. That's the area that was attacked. And they don't translate it as envelope, they translate it as embrace. Otef is a place to embrace the refugees and the community from trauma, give them what they need. This store is a place for any refugee to come. It kind of looks like a secondhand store that you'd find anywhere. And any refugee can come in. They have a card that says guest on it, and anyone can come in and take anything they want for free. Our community, meaning Temple Emmanuel, all of you, donated 5 huge duffel bags that went to Otef. So there are people in Israel walking around with designer clothing from Beverly Hills. But there was something that he said at the end of the meeting. It was like compelling him. He said to us, he goes, I have to tell you something. And he said, this story, meaning the war with Hamas, has 4 chapters. Chapter 1 was written by Hamas on October 7th. Chapter 2, the IDF is writing as they attempt to create safety in Israel without Hamas next door. Those were his words. I think he might add now, and also without Hezbollah next door. Chapter 3. It is being written as we speak by the people of Israel through the unity of Israel and the Jewish people. That to me is Am Yisrael Chai. Chapter 4 is Tikkun, repair, recreation, and cooperation on the day after to rebuild Israel and the Jewish future. I really feel that chapter 3 and chapter 4 are interdependent upon each other. Only with the unity of all of Israel, every one of us, cooperating together, can tikkun, repair, actually take place. Through these 3 people, Tchelet and Meirav and Adir, I just feel like we can understand how the seeds of the country that began in 1948 have taken root in the actual people that live there. From Tchelet, don't bounce back, bounce forward. From Meirav, survive. And from Adir, we must be united in order to heal and repair. This is why I believe in Am Yisrael Chai, that we are all connected. We're all part of some whole. I believe in the Zionist dream that became Israel. And I admire the way our resilient people have created an incredibly vibrant society that reaches out to help others in the world while surrounded by those who want Israel wiped from the earth. Most of all, I believe in the people of Israel. I stand by all of them. All who have survived, bounced forward, and seek to unite and repair. Am Yisrael Chai. The people of Israel endure. Shana Tova.